evening, folks. This is Monday, the 10th of April, and this is the Factivist Report, and this is basically fascism slow boil stew. It's going to be a little bit of everything that's really pissing us off, and it should be pissing you off as well. So we hope the intended result of you being pissed off is you're going to come out and vote in 2024, because I'm telling you now, it's just got to happen. Here's Dave.
And here's what's happening right now. We are getting wins here and there, but given the current climate, especially in certain states, Republicans are using their power in any way possible. And I'm tired of hearing the word unprecedented, because it's not unprecedented anymore. Okay, it's unprecedented that this one is taking away school board seats and putting their guys in. It's not unprecedented anymore because it's happening. It's happening in multiple places. So it's
like monkey see, monkey do. Once it happens in one Republican state, there's another Republican state that's emboldened to do the same thing. Once
DeSantis did it, he opened up the floodgates. You're going to see it. You're going to see it happen in. You saw it happening in Texas, and you see Virginia starting to do some funky things. And we just saw what happened in Tennessee. So there's a couple things I want to talk about before I start this up. So you're starting to see Democratic representatives be removed from office because of a majority in whatever Republican legislature or body or whatever. You have Republicans trying to create legislative bodies without votes. I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. And you're seeing governors remove people from school boards and things of that nature. And it's going to potentially get even worse. And we'll talk about what may be attempted in Wisconsin. But not only removal of representation, removal of sane voices in two fields that I'm basically hitting tonight, and that is in the teaching field and in the medical field. Okay, so when you have teachers or people in the medical profession fleeing your state, what are you left with? Bunch of quacks. And you have nobody else to listen to. So let's start this thing. Let's see. So to start it up, this is an article, great article. Deb just showed it to me. I just read it. It's by Henry Garreau today, actually. U.S. fascism is spreading under the guise of patriotic education. What is that? It's nationalism.
Right.
Okay, you're whitewashing what we have done in the past. You know, we're the greatest nation in the world, blah, blah, blah. We don't do the things that we're doing right now. We don't oppress gay people. We don't oppress women. We don't oppress Black people.
There was no slavery, and we certainly didn't wipe out the Native Americans, because, as Rick Santorum told us a few years ago, there was no culture here.
Right.
Before the white man came here, which is a flat out fucking lie. So this is exactly what their idea of patriotic education is. It's basically repressing all of the truth behind the founding of this country.
By the way, removing school board members, removing teachers. Once you put in your school board, you can start removing teachers for teaching things you don't like. Okay, what does it sound like? This is the definition of fascism. All
And
right.
this is what they're going to teach your children. Okay. This is what they're going to teach your children.
Oh, and there you go, right here. Authoritarian societies firmly embrace the notion that history is written by the victors. Okay, and they're not in the majority, by the way.
Right.
They're grabbing victory any way that they possibly can.
Right.
Okay. Any attempt on the part of the GOP to control historical knowledge and extinguish democratic freedoms in the service of rampant white nationalism and white supremacy that fuels the attack on public and higher education and its dirty war racialized populations against racialized populations. Okay. And Angela Davis basically says it's an attempt to prevent all students from understanding the nature of U.S. history and the role of racism and capitalism and heteropatriarchy has played in forging that history. So this is something that people have heard, like manufactured consent, no chunk, that kind of stuff. But mass production of manufactured ignorance.
Exactly.
Okay. State-based white supremacist assault. That. And by the way, who are they attacking? Not only different races, which we'll get into with Tennessee. I'm sure anybody who's watching this has heard about Tennessee, but also against women and against the gay community. So here's something we did a short show piece on. And you might say, well, Dave, what's the big deal? It's First Amendment. Everybody talks about First Amendment. This is Dolly Parton and her goddaughter, Miley Cyrus. Wisconsin banning first graders from singing Rainbow Land at a concert.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And why? Because they talk about accepting people for who they are. And they mentioned rainbows.
Which is exactly what the fascists don't want you to do.
Yep.
They don't. They want a homogenized society so that everybody fits the mold. That's the way this works, folks. If you're not awake to this now, I suggest to you better wake up to it soon.
By the way, this is out of their own curriculum. Just real quick, culturally responsive decision making, problem solving, culturally responsive problem solving. They don't want this. They really don't.
This makes them look good on their website. This is not what they're doing in practice.
Right.
Okay?
But don't worry about it, because remember, we fought for this. We asked for it. Janet Prasiewicz won. Okay. Now, Deb, what else did we make sure to talk about and make sure to try to get people to vote for?
The state Senate race.
That state Senate race.
Which we were not successful in
right.
flipping that seat. And again, the candidate that should have won lost by a few hundred votes.
Right.
So now we have a Supreme Court that is clearly in the Democratic zone, but unfortunately the legislature is a supermajority that would love to have Janet Prasiewicz removed from the bench.
Right. And guess what? They're already talking about it.
Exactly.
They're already planning to try to remove her from the bench. This is a story which basically says they can't just do it. just because they have a majority.
So
They're going to try.
What they will do is they will use this threat to keep her under control.
Yep.
That's what they're going to try to do. And when she does exercise her majority right, they'll find a way to try to impeach her. I tell you, we are in the throes of fascism in this country. And, you know, people can say, well, that's Wisconsin, but guess what? Wisconsin is a swing state. Okay, and it holds implications for the 2024 presidential election if they remove her. Because understand what I'm saying to you. The Republican Party wants to win whatever way they can. They cannot win in a legitimate election. This is what I'm telling you. Why I'm telling you that more than 52% of registered Democrats need to get off the sofa and get out and vote.
They want to place a conservative or a right-wing person in this seat or in this Supreme Court seat so they can gerrymander the hell out of Wisconsin.
As if they already haven't. Okay.
It's already gerrymandered, but they're talking about trying to redistrict again for the election.
Right.
So I'm going to kind of go through. I can already feel some thing. Let me stop sharing for a bit. Here's where I'm going with this. There's a pattern here. Okay, we have seen it with. It started with Ron DeSantis removing Adam Warren, who was an attorney general. Okay.
Well, he was a prosecutor.
Well, I'm sorry, he was a prosecutor. He was a district attorney, rather. Sorry. So he removed him. Was deemed unconstitutional, but nobody, is like, oh, states' rights. So nobody really did anything to him because they're like, well, he can't do it, but we can't do anything to him. So what does he start doing? He starts ripping apart school districts. Okay, so what do you think happens? We have Greg Abbott starts doing the same thing. Okay, he's doing it to Houston right now. A huge amount of students are represented there. So he's going to take those Democratic Party school board members and supplant his guys and put his system in. This is not a representative government right now. And the only way that we can keep this from happening is bit by bit, piece by piece, vote these guys out. We've said it forever. Go ahead, Deb.
The other thing that people need to understand, and I'm going to say this again, and I've said this in several videos, the Claremont Institute has been invited to Florida by Ron DeSantis, and they will be setting up an office in Tallahassee. And they are a right-wing think tank, and they are touting Florida as the blueprint for other GOP-led states.
Yep.
So you know where this is going. You've got to know that the next state that the closest state to what's going on in Florida is definitely Texas. And there'll be states after that. There are other GOP-led states that will be targeted by the Claremont Institute. And their goal is to homogenize all these states and put them fully in right-wing control.
Now, I'm going to try this again, but you have to understand, too, what happens in one state, right-wingers are going to look and see success there. And if they're actually able to either control or even remove Janet Prasiewicz, we have a Supreme Court election coming up in Pennsylvania.
In May.
You think in May.
Well, May, I believe, isn't May the primary, right?
Yeah, this is
May's
primary.
Primary. I think the big election is June. I'm not sure, but
So you think right-wing assembly people in Pennsylvania aren't chomping at the bit to try to control this as well? Of course they are. So we will follow the Supreme Court race in Pennsylvania. We just found out about it actually, so we'll do more. So there are examples. DeSantis. By the way, once you get rid of school board members, you can then get rid of teachers, superintendents, principals that you don't like.
exactly.
Okay. So they're doing that in Florida already.
Right.
Now you have Glenn Youngkin, he's forcing elections like way ahead of time. So he's basically shortening school board members' terms.
By the way, Glenn Youngkin is unilaterally doing another thing as well, which isn't in here, but you mentioned his name and it came to mind.
Yep.
People who have gone to prison,
right,
served their term, they've paid their debt to society. He is going back to the 1902 ruling that they can never vote again. Why do you suppose that is?
He probably did a poll, and they're probably, number one, African American, and number two, primarily Democratic. They don't vote Republican.
It's pretty simple. There would be, honest to God, there would be no other reason to do that. If they would vote Republican, you would never see this happening. But this is a guy who's unilaterally making this decision. And these people have done their time in prison and are looking forward to voting. A lot of them now are coming out and working, and they're paying taxes and they have no representation. That's basically what you've got here.
Okay. Oh, I tried. It's doing it again. The next slide was basically Greg Abbott doing the exact same thing in Houston. Okay. So I am going to just basically move forward. Well, maybe. So we have that. We have the attack on school boards and the attack on teachers. And when teachers have to leave a red state, what happens? You basically you're giving up power. You've given up. You've given up on that state. And there are teachers who are basically fleeing Texas and Florida. And the same thing is going on with people in the medical profession. But here's another thing. So we have a couple of things that Greg Abbott's doing. I don't know if you've heard that he is vowing to pardon a military sergeant who was an Uber driver who was convicted of killing a BLM protester.
First-degree murder.
First-degree murder. He actually tweeted that he might have to kill a few people on his way to work as he was an Uber driver. And apparently,
and he actually named his car. And a bunch of protesters. This was around the time of the George Floyd killing.
Right.
There was a protest on the streets.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, you can carry legally an AK-47. in Texas. As you know, it's a wide open state. I have a relative right now who is living and working there that cannot wait to be transferred at the end of next month.
Right.
Absolutely hates it. But basically, this guy shot and killed a man who was pushing his girlfriend's wheelchair. And the man pushing the wheelchair did have an AK-47. He was not aiming it in a threatening way at anyone. He was pushing a wheelchair. All right. And this guy tried to use the defense. Well, I didn't want to give him an opportunity to point it at me. He had no intention of pointing it at him. Okay.
Right.
This man committed first-degree murder, and Greg Abbott is working as quickly as he can, as he put it, to get him pardoned. Okay. This is the stuff of fascism, folks. It is. And by the way, the person that he killed was not a black person, but a white person. So do we even know what side this guy was on? We don't, do we? Was he protesting, or was he?
My understanding was he actually was a protester. So
okay. That's all I want to know, because I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter anyway. Murder is murder, no matter what, no matter how you.
Right. I mean, what I had read was that the protesters were afraid he was going to like run them over with the car.
Yep.
Now, but the bottom line is, this person was found guilty by a jury of his peers. Okay, but Greg Abbott is going to circumvent all that. There's another one of Deb's favorites.
There's so many.
A legislation forcing the 10 Commandments be displayed in all schools.
In Texas.
In Texas.
Violation of First Amendment rights.
Yep.
It's a
violation of freedom of from religion or of religion. Not everybody's Christian.
And by the way, he wants the 10 Commandments displayed in schools, but he won't do anything about guns in his state, right? So what's the message there? I guess we can recite the 10 Commandments as we're being assaulted, as students are being assaulted in their classrooms. I don't know. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. I just do not understand how parents can accept that. I don't, even if they are Christian.
So I don't know why this is relevant, but Politico did put it in here. Texas judge halts FDA approval of a contraceptive pill. Mifepristone? How do I pronounce that?
I don't know. I have it in front of me.
Mifepristone.
Yeah, it is an abortion pill.
Yeah.
According to this Texas judge, the FDA rushed the approval 23 years ago. 23 years ago, okay? It has been used 23 years, okay? It has been used for 23 years safely in the United States. It is safer than Tylenol. Do we understand each other here? It is safer than Tylenol. This is nothing more than trying to put a total ban on abortion. Okay? We don't have abortion centers anymore. And by the way, this ban would be nationwide.
Yep.
Nationwide. The Biden administration has already filed a challenge to it. They expect that it will go to the Supreme Court.
And again, you know, these guys always talk about states' rights and then do something like this.
But by the way, in my state, my governor, Maura Healey, has tweeted the night this ruling was handed down that I promise you, I believe it's Mifepristone. I'm not clear.
Mifepristone, yeah.
Yeah, it will be available in the state of Massachusetts. You have my word. So But this
So-
this could potentially affect a lot of states. Now, there are legal eagles out there that saying that the Biden administration can just ignore that ruling. But my recommendation would be you fight this as far as you can. All right. You have to fight this as far as you can. You can't just ignore this. And when they asked Becerra if at some point they could just ignore this ruling, he said everything is on the table to fight this decision. So perhaps what that means is if they do not prevail in the Supreme Court, then they will ignore the ruling. I don't know.
Right.
It's hard for me to tell what that plan is, but he said that it is the duty of the Supreme Court to make a ruling based on facts and evidence, which is not what this Texas judge did, actually.
So I'm gonna share this, and I apologize for the giant dental implant ad. There's nothing I can do about it. I tried. Deb can attest to it. I tried and it messed up. But
He tried and put the entire dental implant ad on the page, so don't make him do it again.
Mississippi passing a controversial bill that would form a court system of unelected officials, bypassing the voters in this area, 82% of which are African American. And who do you think these people would be, by the way? They'll all be white people. So Mississippi House passed a controversial bill that would form a court system of unelected judges and prosecutors to preside over part of the majority Black city of Jackson. So Black residents make up 82.8% of the city's population. The bill would expand the city's capital complex improvement district, which was created by the Mississippi legislature to establish regular funding and administration of infrastructure projects within a defined area of the city of Jackson. So instead of giving the city's majority Black residents an opportunity to vote for judges and prosecutors in the court, the Republican-backed bill would require government officials to choose who fills those positions. And yes, all the government officials right now are white, just so you know, which is very similar to what they did in Tennessee with Justin Jones and Justin Pearson.
Right.
Okay. So what I will tell you, is that the Republicans have an explanation of why they didn't expel the white woman and they expelled the two Black men. Basically, the white woman was being civil and the two Black men were being unruly. The white woman, Gloria Johnson, Rep. Johnson, she said, it's because I'm a white woman. Okay.
Survived the vote.
Yeah.
And
She
she
said-
also said that she still stands with her two compatriots.
Yep. She actually, she's been very forthcoming. She said, I'm sorry for what they said and all that stuff, and that she stands with them and whatever. The problem is this Tennessee legislature is majority Republican, right wing. They don't care. They don't care. They really don't. Students are protesting,
And they're still
Also-
protesting, by the way.
Yep. So,
Their idea is to have common sense gun legislation. The governor of Tennessee, what does he want to do? He wants to arm guards in all the schools. What could possibly go wrong? Let's solve the problem with more guns.
so just for shits and giggles,
Literally.
let's literally,
Kissing giggles. I'm sorry.
yeah. So the Republican Party was outraged by the behavior of these two individuals, so that's why they got rid of them, right? Okay. So Justin Jones and his defense of himself, basically skewered these guys. There's no way that he wasn't going to be voted out. But here's a couple of things. Let's see here. Several Democrats pointed to things Republicans did or were accused of that did not result in expulsion. Here are a few examples. David Byrd, 2018, accused of sexually assaulting girls. Byrd said, "I wish I had a do-over because I promise you I would have corrected that and it would never have happened." He thinks of an unspecified incident all the time. So he was accused of sexually assaulting two teenage girls that he coached at a basketball team. So in 2019, they killed a resolution to expel him from the chamber brought by Don Johnson, the member of the Tennessee Three who was not ousted. You have to balance the will of the voters and overturning the will of the voters.
No,
House Speaker Cameron Sexton told
they
local
certainly
news
didn't worry
station.
about that at all when they removed them, did they? No.
No.
Yeah.
Former Speaker stepped down, but he wasn't kicked out. This is Glenn Casada. Text messages emerged that he showed the chamber's top leader is encouraged or approved his chief of staff making disparaging and sexual comments about women, including interns and a lobbyist. Casada stepped down as Speaker, was not expelled. So, August 2022, federal prosecutors charged Casada with money laundering, wire fraud, bribery, and kickbacks concerning federal fraud.
Federal funds.
Federal funds. Created a political consulting firm, Phoenix Solutions, that was then approved by the House Speaker's office as a state vendor. Prosecutors alleged the trio created false identities to funnel $52,000 through a state mailer program through their firm. Casada denied the charges. Despite the federal charges, Casada served the remainder of his term.
Was not expelled.
Was not expelled. Lawmaker who joked about lynching, Paul Sherrill, asked if the state would consider adding hanging by a tree to its list of execution methods. I think it's a very good idea. And I was just wondering about, could I put an amendment on it that could include hanging by a tree?
In the state where the Ku Klux Klan was founded.
Yep.
Mind you.
Representative defended the 3/5 compromise. That's Rep. Justin Lafferty. Okay. They were immediately condemned as ahistoric by lawmakers and historians for its misrepresentation of Southern states' stance on slavery during the Constitutional Convention. Lawmaker running an anonymous Twitter account and leaking complaints about fellow legislators. I like that one. State Rep. Rick Tillis found to have operated the account after an investigation. Wrote multiple tweets criticizing the staff of the then House Speaker's staff and aired his thoughts on staff promotions before the news was made public. There was also a fight in between the Republican Party legislators, and apparently someone peed in someone else's chair. Not in the chambers, but like somewhere in the State House. So, but they settled that one.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, they pointed out what the bathroom was, so we wouldn't make that mistake again. Yeah.
Now, the ousted lawmakers, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, are trying to get their seats back. There are ways to do it. Their district could put them back in, and basically the legislature is threatening boycott of the districts if they decide, especially with Pearson, if they do that. Again, where is the will of the people here?
Right.
These people were elected. Okay.
Right.
And by the way, we mentioned this in another show. This is not an insurrection. They're
Hey,
not trying to.
Let's put pictures of an insurrection in here. We've got plenty of them.
Yeah. They're not trying to, put someone in, and violently or any of that kind of thing. Just saying. So we have that. There's some other stuff here that is happening. We have, let's see. So this is basically the end of the whole overturning the will of the voters stuff. But then once you do that, you can propose your own oppressive legislation.
Right.
Like making it illegal to travel out of state to get an abortion.
Yep.
That is called
crime.
Yep.
Trafficking abortion. Yep.
Trafficking abortion.
Yep.
Okay.
That's Idaho, right?
That's Idaho. I have that in there.
Yeah, won't be the last state, but it's the first state.
Right. But we'll see where that goes. And again, states' rights. Okay. If another state is willing to provide out-of-state care, what do you care? Why does it matter to you? Because they're trying to make it illegal nationally. That's why.
Exactly. And
okay.
by the way, if you allow the GOP to take the majority in 2024, they will pass a nationwide ban on abortion.
Yep.
They will. Don't tell me that's not going to happen or it's a distraction, because that's what all these women were saying back in 2016, 2017, 2018 about Roe being overturned. And where are we today, folks? Are we paying attention? Roe is gone. Roe is gone unless there is some kind of majority that can overcome the filibuster so we can codify Roe. And in order to do that, you need to put the Democrats back in.
So let me try. There's a few others in here. So here's what's happening. Okay, and you see it with both teachers and you see it with medical professionals. Doctors are leaving red states because they're quitting. They're done. If they're going to be charged with a crime for practicing legitimate medicine, what are they doing it for? They're either going to move to another state where they're allowed to practice, or they're just going to quit, or they're going to move somewhere else. So what is that going to create? That's going to create a massive shortage of doctors in Texas, Oklahoma, whatever. And what's going to happen? You're going to have, you're going to have quacks move in.
Right. Can I just interrupt for a minute?
Yeah.
I got breaking news here.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this. Nashville lawmakers voted to send Justin Jones, a Democrat, back to the state legislature.
Okay.
So he's back.
He's back. Pearson, they're threatening a financial boycott or financial sanctions against that district.
Right.
But Jones is back in, and Jones is the guy with the megaphone.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see where we go.
He's the guy that's in a Democratic district. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. That's why they're pissed off about Pearson, because it's a Republican district.
Yeah, Pearson's going to be more difficult.
Right.
So this is just it's a good article. I'm not going to get into it a lot, but it basically talks about the history of the quackery, the anti-vaxxers and the, supplement movement and the, and kind of the alternative medicine movement, and how the medical profession has responded to it. The problem is when you have a patient who listens to someone who tells you to drink 3 gallons of carrot juice a day and it adversely affects you. Okay. And there are stories in here about that kind of thing. And how doctors have to fight that. But now on top of that, now you have politicians making medicine political.
Right.
Not only with vaccines, but with abortion and with gender affirming care.
Right.
So, and before I get off,
the National Review, excellent publication.
Just before I completely get off education, the House GOP messaging bill, the Parents' Bill of Rights, they're going to push it, but
it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere through the Senate. But
again, what it basically does is pit parent against parent. That's really what it really does.
And by the way, when you have a transgender child with parents who don't accept who they are, whose rights are you really protecting? You should protect the rights of the individual to be who they are.
Right.
So, this isn't a clear-cut thing either. So, just a few more. This is Governor Little signing a law to make providing gender affirming care a felony. That's actually Idaho, and that's gender affirming care. I said abortion, but this is gender affirming care. My apologies.
Oh, but Idaho was the first state of
abortion too. Yeah, I believe.
It was the state that made it that's the state that did the trafficking abortion.
Right.
Very extreme state.
Yeah. Now, here is from the Human Rights Campaign. And obviously, we're going to do more on this. This is a map on gender affirming care by state. We have a graph here. So the red states are those who already have laws or policies banning gender affirming care. And those yellows are ones that are considering it. And then you have those that aren't considering it all as of yet.
And you have some that aren't considering it ever.
Right.
Such as Massachusetts.
So, and there you go. So this is the Idaho, we just did the gender affirming care. This is about abortion.
Come on, you can do it. I know you can.
Well, you can see the title. There we go.
There you go.
Idaho governor signs abortion trafficking bill into law as well. So, and we have one more. Iowa Attorney General, but I don't know what gives her the right to do this, but Republican Brenna Bird, who ran on protecting victims, is now auditing Iowa's sexual assault victim compensation fund to see if it's appropriate.
And she's halted Plan B. Now,
and halted Plan B.
I want to make one thing clear about Plan B. It is not a abortion pill. It is a bill that prevents you from ovulating. So technically speaking, it's a contraceptive device. Not a device, but a pill. Again, it's a morning after situation, but I said from the beginning that they weren't going to stop with abortion, that they would eventually go after contraception. Plan B is not, I'm going to repeat it, it is not an abortion pill. Okay? They are taking away every avenue a woman has to prevent from becoming pregnant. That's really where we are. This is not about saving the babies. This is about controlling women in our society. All right? That's what this is all about, all of this. Because if they really cared about children, they wouldn't be voting down Head Start programs. They wouldn't be taking books out of classrooms. They certainly, wouldn't be allowing guns to run rampant in states so the kids can be shot and killed in their learning environment. None of this is about protecting children. None of it.
All right. Couple things kind of off topic, but not really. You guys thinking that the Supreme Court is the end all be all? It isn't. And there will be an investigation on Clarence Thomas. ProPublica, again, did a fantastic job on this.
They always do.
Okay. Now, Harlan Crow, okay. There's some weird graphics going on with this thing because they do like this weird video thing.
Yeah.
But so Harlan Crow, it's been giving this guy ridiculous trips and a yacht and trips to what was it? Whatever Grove. What was it? Grove.
I don't remember. It was like a resort.
Yeah.
It was a resort.
But Bohemian Grove. That's Bohemian Grove. But giving this guy just hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of
Okay, so I was not talking about the Bohemian Grove. I was talking about another hotel.
Okay.
That his private resort
Right.
in the Adirondacks. That's what it was.
Yep. But the extent and frequency of Crow's apparent gifts to Thomas have no known precedent in modern history of the U.S. Supreme Court. And Thomas never financially disclosed these. And he said, oopsie. No, his failure to report the gifts basically appears to violate a law passed after Watergate that requires justices, judges, members of Congress, and federal officials to disclose most gifts to ethics law experts says. And he should have, exposed or disclosed the trips on his yacht. The bigger thing is that Harlan Crow donated $500,000 to his wife's foundation.
Ginny Thomas.
So there's more in here.
And apparently that money was used to pay her $150,000 a year.
Yep.
And let me just say this, okay? I've seen comments out there. Yes, I can certainly understand calling for the impeachment of Clarence Thomas at this point.
Yep.
But I also saw comments out there saying that the Democrats need to grow a spine. Well, I need to respectfully tell you to shut the fuck up, because I want you to understand something. The Democrats can't unilaterally impeach a Supreme Court justice. It has to go through the legislature, and it has to go through both houses of the legislature. And since the Democrats don't control the House, The chances of this guy being impeached right now are nil, zero. They stacked the Supreme Court for a reason. They are not going to give up a Supreme Court justice when they have control of the House. And clearly, the control of the House being lost lies squarely on the backs of the voters. It does not lie in the Democratic Party. And let me also just say this. The Democratic voters gave us one more senator. You would need 60 senators to get rid of this guy via impeachment, because they will use the freaking filibuster to prevent it. Do we understand where we are here in history? If you want all of this done, you want Roe codified, you want the judiciary to be cleaned up, you want the education system saved, you want all of this done, you know what you have to do. You would for the midterms. Now I'm going to tell you before 2024 until my eyes bleed. Okay.
I believe it's a 2/3 majority for a Supreme Court justice too, so it's probably even more.
Right.
It's not even just a matter of breaking the filibuster; it's a matter of having enough votes. And on top of that, you have to have enough votes to have a cushion to where you know that you're going to be able to do it.
Right.
So
what we're basically saying is you need to get rid of Manchin and Sinema. Let me just say it
that too. Yeah. So here's the last thing I was. Deb showed this to me, and I'm actually pretty happy about it. So Governor Hochul, finally, she nominated Rowan Wilson. Okay, this is the way governing is supposed to work. She nominated Hector LaSalle, which which people had an issue with. So his nomination was voted down. She was upset about it, but she eventually nominated someone else and nominated someone that people do not have as much of a problem with. This is how this works.
It is.
How it's supposed to work.
Right.
Okay. The reason she put him in is because she wanted a Hispanic judge on the court. Okay, now she put in a
Yeah,
that's weird. Hold on.
Right there.
Yep. So now she just appointed an African American New York Supreme Court judge. So, just because you're a minority person, we just saw one, doesn't mean you're on the right side of history. Clarence Thomas in no way, shape, or form is on the right side of history.
Nope. No, sir. And neither is Ginny. So that's where we are, gang.
That was your minestrone of hate and fascism.
Right.
The bottom line is, do not give up either. I'm hearing people, like people in Tennessee saying, oh, well, there's no point to this. We might as well just give up. No, don't do it now.
Yeah. Not a good plan, folks. We will see you next Sunday next week.
Yep.
We took the Easter. So
that was the Easter thing. And yeah.
So we will see you next Sunday, and I will get this up tomorrow afternoon as soon as I return from work.
Yep.
Talk to you then next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.